what we surfing on? Like, I never liked history class. You know what I'm saying? I never liked reading. Let me get my water back, man. That was nice, man. Let me get some more water. There we go. Yeah, I never liked reading history books. Until we found out that we are the book. Right? So here we are. So it's boring when you look at their version and try to learn a bunch of lies. It's just boring to learn all these doggone lies. However, it says we may fairly agree that the subject of history as commonly taught is one of the most boring subjects. However, the study of how the subject of history has been manipulated is surely one of the most interesting subjects. Interesting of all subjects, man. That's from Michael Tyrion from the Astrotheology and Sidereal Mythology. You know what I mean? Look, man. Look. And one more quote, man. The falsification of history has done more to mislead humans or Nagas. The falsification of history has done more to mislead humans than any single thing known to mankind. I'm at the very, very bottom of the page. The falsification of history has done more to mislead Nagas than any single thing known to mankind. You know what I mean? So love to y'all. I just wanted to get the rest of that great drop, man. And, you know.
I second that. That's why you never hear me say history. I say history. Because them y'all's friends. Them are y'all's friends. Them y'all's punk ass friends. And that's their history. Okay? We have our history. We have our story. They have their story. So that's his story, and this is our story. This is our story. Shabbatai up. Welcome back. I mean, I know we never left, but technically, I'm glad to be back here speaking with y'all, talking to you, vibrating. It's tune-up season, baby. It's tune-up season. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Stand up, stand up, stand up. How y'all feeling, man? Much ahab. As y'all can see, we got it on Pac, young Pac, Tupac, man. Tupac Shakur. Mother named Afeni Shakur. Stepfather named Matulu Shakur. Locked up probably for the rest of his life in, I think, Philadelphia or New Jersey prison for accusations of killing a cop. But you know, they just had the movie that just came out about Tupac, man, and you know, I'm not gonna get into a whole bunch about my brother, but I just feel like it's sad. The whole story is sad, man. But like I said, man, it's like it's almost saying like prophecy, because you know, somebody brought him in and somebody took him out. It's the same thing as you saying give the money back to Caesar. You know, what I'm gonna do with this money? Give it back to Caesar, man. Give it back to Caesar. You know, so it's the same thing. Like when we playing this game, and I mean, we seen the story unfold. You know, it's Masonic trickery, Masonic trickery at its finest. Excuse me. Eating some almonds. All praise, but so you know. Everybody know about the Tupac story. If you don't know, go check it out, okay? Me personally speaking, this is my own opinion about the Tupac story, since I never touched on the issue. Shalom, brethren. Shalom, people. Shalom, my people. Because that's what's most important. I mean, we just here, we just kicking the shit. We just kicking the bobo. We'll hit you over the head with some real shit eventually, but we just kicking the bobo right now. But me personally, I'm about the Tupac story. I feel that it's a lot of propaganda. It's a lot of propaganda, meaning that I think it was all designed for our eyes, the beginning of his story and the ending of his story. I think through the murders, through the accused murderers, being the Pac's family, Tupac family, that the federal government coerced them. Mutulu, Afeni. Afeni was pregnant in prison. She was pregnant in prison with Tupac, with her child. No money for a lawyer. No money for bail. But yet and still, she was freed of all charges. I believe that all charges for murdering a police officer. But Mutulu has life in prison. How do one people is exonerated? How does one people for the same particular charge is exonerated, and then one person is guilty for the rest of their life? So the thing is that either she sold, to me, my personal opinion, she sold her family. She sold Tupac to the federal government. She gave him in exchange for her freedom. That's my personal opinion, because just to see how he was used his whole life, he was being used, and it's sad. But that's not why we're here. We know a lot of things going on where, you know, in time they celebrating. They had the new Tupac movie come out, Tupac Shakur, but the deeper meaning, what's behind it, right? See, it goes again about a fake Messiah, right? It's the same thing they did with the Jesus Christ, with Caesar, with Caesar and these, you know, the this fake Caesar. You get what I'm saying? These fake Caesars. Okay, it's the same thing. These Greeks or these Canaanites, it's the same thing that they're doing now. Okay, as far as the Tupac, right? Okay, Tupac, Amaru, Shakur. First of all, the name has so many deeper meanings, being indigenous to the Americans. But secondly, did you know that there was two other Tupac Amarus before this Tupac ever existed? Correct, precisely. There was two other, just like Martin Luther King. Did you know that there was a Martin Luther before that Martin Luther King? There was a Martin Luther who was in the Catholic Church, who was head of a Catholic region, and embodied the Magna Carta and brought it to life. And so then there was a Martin Luther King. You get it? And you got to always remember that J. Edgar Hoover said it best. He said, before you all have another Messiah, we'll make him. We'll make your Messiah. So that's what they've been doing to us since we had Messiahs, is making our Messiahs. So, therefore, when they fall in line with the Tupac Shakur, they were just making us a Messiah. So now you got all these doctrines about Mr. Tupac Shakur, okay? You have all these doctrines about Tupac Shakur. You got the tattoos of Tupac decoded, right? Then you find out even the tattoos were very important, like this right here. This tattoo right here of they say of king or queen Nefertiti, which was, or king, anyway, it's supposed to link to Moses, okay? Amenhotep, if you don't know, is the Nile Valley stories, histories, ancient, Kemetic, blase, but where do they translate from? They translate from your Hebrew kings, from your high schools, from your Hebrew kings. So therefore, Akhenaten is supposed to be in Moses. So they're linking that these, you know, tattoos, they might seem African, but they were linked to indigenous American, Moses, okay? Translation, okay, decode, okay, and Amaru being the middle name, being indigenous to the Americans, okay? So let me see if I can find it. Amaru, his name, Lemuria, okay, is the name of non-discredited 19th century theory which posted lost land, a lost land located either in the Indian or Pacific Ocean. Lemuria. Okay, but that's the Voynich. So Mr. Tupac, all right, but I think Tupac died in 1994 or something like that. But then, March of 91, Tupac Amaru revolutionary movement growing threat to the U.S. interests in Peru. Okay, this is in Peru. This is in Peru. The Tupac Amaru revolutionary movement, they call it the MRTA, in Peru, this is South America, has sharply increased its anti-U.S. attacks. Anti-U.S. attacks. So they've been attacking on the U.S. and has used more lethal tactics since the beginning of the year, making it one of the greatest terrorist threats in the U.S. interests in South America. So it's a threat to the U.S. in South America. Okay, it's the declaration of war on the United States. Declaration of war on the United States and other members of the Persian Gulf coalition. Okay, so it's warring against the United States and Persia. Okay, this was in the coalition in mid-January, which was followed by an RPG attack against the U.S. Assembly in Lima. Underscored its strong anti-U.S. agenda. The MRTA's more than 1,000 hardcore members are highly trained. So this Tupac Amaru, and this was in the 1980s actually. Started I think in the 1980s, but this Tupac Amaru was a revolutionary in South America for independency. Okay, so what they did is, we're gonna get into another article that gives more in depth. Okay, so you can basically it's going to give you more in depth about the about this South American extremist group is what they call, right? But this group was just fighting for independency. Okay, let's read it. The MRTA, okay, is a Marxist Leninist organization determined to seize power to rid Peru of imperialist presence, specifically U.S. influence. Okay, they're trying to get rid of United States influence, United States military, United States influence in Peru. It first surfaced in November 1983 when it bombed the U.S. Marine Security Guard residence in Lima. The group is highly trained, well-armed, employs sophisticated and disciplined tactics and methods, and specializes in urban terrorism. Its well-educated leaders come largely from the middle and upper middle classes. Members include students, professors, and other intellectual labor leaders, lawyers, and reporters. The real columns of MRTA also recruit from the peasantry for the military units. Alright, they have a Cuban-style command structure similar to the other Marxist-Leninist insurgency groups in Latin America, such as the National Liberation Armies. Okay, so they say they got about 1,000 members. Okay, but yet and still, it doesn't seem like, you know. But let's go to this article about Tupac Amaru's, Peru's smaller guerrilla group. Now this was in the 1980s. Take a look at the soldiers, because when it comes to this Tupac, right? It's weird because when it goes to these pictures of this Tupac Amaru, right, these are the pictures that it gives us. Even though in the 80s I was just a little kid, I never seen this individual. All right, I'm talking about of South America, this Tupac of South America, right? But check it out. I look at all these are paintings. You see all these paintings? I don't have any actual picture, so I really don't know what the Amaru of Peru looks like. That's the weird part, right? They give you this picture of this 7 ether man. You know, he's not 9 ether. I'm not saying that this Amaru was I'm not saying that he was 9 ether, because I don't see any pictures of him. But what I'm saying is, when they show you pictures of him, These are the pics that they shows of this mongoloid characteristic, which he probably was. I'm not saying that he wasn't, but I just find it weird that there are no actual pictures of him. But check this out. But when I go over here to the actual article, right, there was an actual article. Okay, there's an actual article in the World News story page. Tupac Amaru's Peru smaller guerrilla group overshadowed by a Shiny Path movement. So this was ignored through the media, right, by a Shiny Path movement or something like that in the media. But if you take a look at, and they have it right here. This is his the actual rebels of the Tupac Amaru's movement. Look at these rebels. Look at those rebels. Don't those rebels look very, very carbonated? Let's take a look at them for a second. They look very carbonated, don't they? They look very melanated. They look like they got a lot of soul, huh? Look at the hair on them. Don't they look like they got hair like wool? This is Tupac Amaru rebels. This is in December 18th, 1996. This war started in the early 80s. Okay, so now this ad is going to give us a little more detail about these rebels in South America fighting for independence. CNN, since it first took up arms in 1984. Okay, this is when they first took arms in 1984. They call them the Marxists. The Marxist Tupac Amaru revolutionary movement in Peru has been largely overshadowed by a larger Maoist influenced Shining Path rebel group. Okay, I just want to see what that word means. Mao. I know that's ethnicity somehow. Maoist meaning a follower of a communist doctrines of Mao Zedong. Our army thought he was a Maoist. Okay, a follower of the communist doctrines of Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong thought simplified Chinese traditional. Mao is a political theory derived from the teaching of Chinese political leader Mao Zedong in 1893 to 1976, whose followers are known as Maoists. Maoists. Okay, so since it first took up arms in 1984, the Marxist Tupac Amaru. This is the actual name of the group. So the Tupac Amaru is not just one person. So this Tupac Afeni Shakur's sons was given the name by her, but to name after this group. Okay, after this revolutionary group, Tupac Amaru Revolutionary Movement. Okay, it was MTAR or something like that. MTRM. In Peru has been largely overshadowed by a larger Maoist, okay, a larger communist group. That's what they're basically saying. Communist influenced group, Path Rebel group, Shining Path Rebel. Tupac Amaru, whose ideology is inspired by Fidel Castro's of Cuba, most likely never had more than 1,000 or 1,800 members and is believed to have no more than a few hundred now, focusing mostly on urban welfare. Okay, this is what they focus on. Focusing mostly on urban welfare, Tupac Amaru rebels bomb fast food restaurants. Okay, they focus mostly on urban warfare or urban welfare. You understand? Okay, Tupac Amaru's rebels bomb fast food restaurants. They robbed banks and they kidnapped businessmen. Okay, The larger Shining Path group terrorized mountain villages, towns, and poor urban areas, according to the paper. Tupac Amaru was named for Tupac Amaru II, an indigenous rebel who was executed for an uprising against the Spanish in the 1700s. Okay, so there was a Tupac Amaru that was named, okay, and he was an indigenous rebel, indigenous to the Americas, who was executed for uprising against Spanish in the 1700s. The rebel had taken his name from the last ruler of the Inca Empire before Spain conquered Peru. So Tupac Amaru, and y'all look that up. So there was a Tupac Amaru II, but the first was the last ruler of the Inca Empire before Spain conquered Peru. Did we know that? Tupac Amaru was the last ruler of the Inca Empire in South America before Spain conquered Peru. Wow. That's big, because now we see. So they say his mother named him, but that name had so much death. The name of a revolutionary in death. This was the last ruler of the Inca Empire before Spain conquered it, Tupac Amaru. So going up to the this was in 1700s. 200 years later, there'll be a man named Tupac Amaru Shakur. They said named by his mother. And now you have capitalists making money off of this individual and decoding him, because somebody in the government has used this individual as a messiah politically for us. The same thing they did with this so-called Jesus Christ, right? So basically I'm saying the same thing. So they're doing the same thing that they did with our priest king, with our descendant of David, with David, with our oppressor king, okay? With those descendants, our priests, our descendants of priests. So they're doing the same thing with our lineage. I'm not bullshit. So they're Genghis Khaning us. Okay. So they're taking something that once meant something great to us, and they're putting their spin on it. Jesus Christ, Martin Luther. You know, they shoot off the nose to oppose, meaning that the statues all over, they shot the noses off. They didn't change the statues, they just shot the noses off, so you can tell that these statues were of carbonated people with noses and full noses and lips. Something is wrong with these people. Something is wrong with these people, man. Instead of just creating their own beautiful history. Yeah, we're gonna jump into the book, to the the testimonies, the testaments. We're gonna jump into the testaments of Josephus, priest king. And the story is a little different than what they've always told us, man. So it's a beautiful thing that we jumping into this head first. We diving in head first, hitting you over the head with some real shit. And I'm talking about the war of the Hebrews. The wars of the Hebrews. You know how long they lasted, man? Hundreds of years. Well, right? 310 years maybe. Going on 400 years. So these wars are dating hundreds and hundreds of years. Josephus took account. Don't ask me how, I don't know. But it's the point. Israel took account. Yasher took account. And Yasher wanted to tell you the real side of that story. The real side of those wars. We got it. Don't trip. We PDF'd it. Right? But the beautiful thing about this, I want to finish that. We're going to come back to that. But when it comes to talking about the wars, my brothers and sisters, Flavius Josephus, the War of the Hebrews, or story of the destruction of Jerusalem, all right, or his story. No, this is our story of the destruction of Jerusalem. Josephus wanted to give it firsthand, and he wanted to tell you the real for real, okay? And he's knocking all the other historians out the box where they talking about how even the ones that were there, how they still lied. The ones that were there still lied to us about the wars and what took place, how we were made to seem so little, and the people who we were war against, the so-called Romans, were so big and so righteous. How they made those stories sound in the New Testament, how they have us as devils, and they have the Most High as this political Titus, Flavius, and Vespasian. Titus is being Titus is this Jesus Christ, our priest king, our lineage. They lied to our lineage. Do you understand that? They lied in our lineage. They put another group of people that don't even belong in our ancestry, and they gave them letters. They forged them letters into our nations. You think I'm bullshitting with you? We're gonna get into that, but we're gonna get into the preface. Fuck this Flavius Josephus. This is Josephus bar Mattathias. Alright? I want to listen, man. These people are forging our history. They're forging into our story. This is not their story. You think I'm bullshitting? I'm finna go. I want y'all to check this video out, and we'll come back. We'll come back to this. This punk, David Rockefeller. I want y'all to look at this. This nigga got a letter that says he is a Hebrew descendant. That he is officially a Hebrew descendant. Y'all think I'm playing? Check this video out. I want y'all to check this video out.
It's 67 words long, it's 100 years old, and it changed the course of history for the Middle East and the Jewish people. The Balfour Declaration,
Now this nigga got a Balfour Declaration letter saying that he is of Jewish descent, a 67-word letter 100 years ago. Check this out.
the expression of the British government's support for a Jewish home in Palestine, was sent by British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour to the second Lord Rothchild. I'm here in Buckinghamshire at Waddesdon Manor to speak with the fourth Lord Rothchild about the Balfour Declaration, what it means for Britain, for the Jewish people and the Rothschild family.
The Foreign Office, November the 2nd, 1917. Dear Lord Rothschild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty's Government, the following declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the Cabinet.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Must we read it over? This is from the Foreign Office. So this nigga gets a letter in November 2nd, 1917. can't believe this nigga's still alive. But this nigga gets a letter from the Foreign Office, November 2nd, 1917. It states, "Dear Lord Rothchild." All right, so now you see how these British people talk? You see how these British mofos talk? Okay, you see I'm talking about Lord and God. So how can we profess the one that created us with the same tongue? Doesn't make any sense. Okay, so now you see, over in British, in Europe, this is how they talk. So you got to be careful. All right, so it says, "Dear Rothchild, I have much pleasure in conveying to you, on behalf of His Majesty government, the British Parliament, the British government, the following declaration." So they've declared of sympathy. They've declared a declaration of sympathy with Jewish Zionist aspirations, which has been submitted to and approved by the cabinet. His Majesty government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of the national home for the so-called Jewish, these fake Jewish people. Check it out.
So it's possibly the most famous letter in modern Jewish history, and it begins with 3 words: "Dear Lord Rothschild." Why was it that this letter was sent by the Foreign Secretary to your great uncle Walter?
It's an interesting question because he was really interested in ornithology, although he became interested in Zionism. I think the reason was this, that it was primarily a movement from Eastern Europe, but they didn't clarify who was in charge of that movement, and in addition it was after all in Great Britain, so they felt that the Rothschild family should be the one to whom it was addressed. And Walter was Lord Rothschild, and he was a Zionist, and those really are the background reasons.
So Walter received the Balfour Declaration, and I have a copy here, and I wonder if I could possibly ask you to read it for us.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I'm going to put on my spectacles to make sure I read it accurately. His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment of Palestine as a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. I should be grateful if you would bring this declaration to the knowledge of the Zionist Federation. Yours, Arthur Balfour.
And here it is, the Balfour Declaration. What do you feel when you see it here?
I genuinely feel it's one of the most extraordinary...
Oh boy. So, the Balfour Declaration declared that this Palestine would be home of the Jews. Right? So it almost asked me, man, when did they change this name to Jews? When did they convert this Hebrew name to Jews? And is it right in them being called Jews? Maybe it is. Because maybe it's such of a word that denounces the word Hebrew. You understand what I'm saying? You can't be a Hebrew and a Jew. You understand what I'm saying? So I think maybe that's the case. The case that if a carbonated man would wake up one day and try to imitate this counterpart, that it would be blasphemy. If this melanated man would go and look for a home within the synagogues of where their homes are, where their worship to their demonic gods, I think it would be blasphemy. It would be defilement against your Creator to practice where these so-called people practice, to worship where these so-called people worship. How could it be when they're under the fraud? they're under a fraud. They're no more Hebrew than Palestine is a Hebrew nation. So yeah, we gotta watch out for that. But back to this. I want to get into this preface. Okay. Book 1 containing the interval of 167 years from the taking of Jerusalem. So this is going to give us the beginning and the ending of the wars of the Hebrews. So book 1 is 167 years from the taking of Jerusalem. Okay, by Antioch the Epiphanes. So it's going to go over through all these kings, these generals, taking refuge in our shit. But I wanted to get into this preface because this preface is going to hit you over the head with some real shit. It's really going to give you a position. It's really going to set the atonement on a position. On a position. Like where it's going to position you where you want to be. Where do you desire to be in this overstanding? And it's overstanding of your testament and their testament. Do you understand? It's gonna give you a position, because you can understand Josephus' words. I don't know what to tell you. When he's breaking this down, we're gonna read this very slowly. Okay? We might read this entire book. But what I'm trying to get to is I'm trying to actually get to the preface. I'm trying to get to this preface. This preface is beautiful. The wars of the Jews, or history of the destruction of Jerusalem. Okay, this is the preface right here. Whereas the war with the Jews made with the Romans have been the greatest of all those, not only that have been of our times, but in a manner those have ever heard. No, I don't know if that's the... Hold up, let me make sure. That is the preface. It say preface, but let me make sure. Wait. Calm that down. That's what there we go. Alright. Okay. So we're going to read the entire preface, man, slowly. Because I want you to decipher the difference between whether you feel or know that it was ordained. What do you feel? Do you feel that this war, these particular wars of Jerusalem, were they ordained, or were they just another conning of the Greeks? And what I mean by that, because this is where Christ was implemented. Okay? This is where Titus came in and implemented this political Messiah. So we want to see, man. The preface is going to let us know. So once we come back, we'll get into this preface. Flavius Josephus, or Josephus bar Mattathias, from Israel, born and bred, Yasher, priest king. They came looking for Josephus. They came looking for this priest king. Alright? To get it popping. And once they found this priest king, they got it popping. Alright, so we want to get into that. We'll get a little more into this Jasher also.